All right, this is Ryan Martin, driver of the Fireball Camaro. We're here at the 2018 PRI show.
Ryan Martin rolls up to every race with a trailer load of secrets. Over $300,000 in engines, transmissions, turbos, and enough parts to rebuild his entire car on the spot. But the real shock is that the four-man crew, including his wife and 4-year-old son, takes on teams with a dozen specialists. How does a skeleton crew overpower full race operations?
So there's always a chance that I could overpower the road and possibly give the race away.
And what does this reveal about who actually survives a championship season? Join us as we find out everything in Ryan Martin's trailer. A car built to win that couldn't race. In 2017, Ryan Martin had a new race car built, and then immediately tucked it away where no one could touch it, including himself. After beating Gas Monkey Garage's Alex Laughlin for $75,000 on national TV, he poured the winnings into a dream project. Martin turned to legendary chassis builder Billy Gilsbach to take a 2018 ZL1 Camaro and turn it into a no-prep monster, a car that would push his racing to a whole new level. The plan was bold: shed nearly 200 pounds from the stock Camaro, strengthen the chassis beyond factory limits, and wrap it all in carbon fiber bodywork that made it look like it was moving even when sitting still. This was a full-scale reinvention, taking a production car and transforming it into a purpose-built drag racing machine. Gilsbach, who had built Martin's original Fireball Camaro, approached the ZL1 project with a fresh perspective, treating it as a blank canvas. Since no carbon fiber parts existed for this model, nothing was plug-and-play. Every piece had to be designed and fabricated from scratch. Factory panels served only as rough templates. New molds were shaped, and one-off components were crafted to match Martin's precise specifications. Doors, hood, front clip, fenders, and dozens of panels were hand-built to strike a balance between extreme lightness and structural strength. The result kept the Camaro's aggressive stance, but gave it the purposeful, ready-to-launch look of a car built to dominate the drag strip. Every bracket, every subframe connector, every roll cage attachment point was calculated for maximum strength while minimizing weight. The Camaro was precise, agile, and ready to launch without compromise. Even the smallest details got attention. The front splitter, rear valance, and side skirts weren't decoration. They managed airflow and helped the car grip the track. The doors, once ordinary panels, now ran on custom hinges designed to be both lightweight and durable under extreme conditions. Each carbon fiber piece had to meet two competing goals: shed weight and withstand brutal abuse at speeds that could shred lesser materials. The Camaro's overhaul was about creating a complete harmonious machine where chassis, suspension, aerodynamics, and engine worked together seamlessly. Compared with anything Martin had driven before, this ZL1 was lighter, faster, and far more precise. Even a few hundredths of a second shaved off a run could be the difference between leaving the field behind and falling short. Every inch of the car reflected the craftsmanship of someone who understood the delicate balance between raw speed and the engineering artistry that makes a car feel alive before it even hits the throttle. But the weight savings were only part of the story. The front end was reshaped with tighter wheel openings, and the hood was redesigned for cleaner airflow and a sharper look. Even the factory HID LED headlights were blended into the carbon fiber nose, keeping the ZL1 signature attitude while shedding unnecessary bulk. Gilsbach also crafted custom carbon fiber rockers and hand-built a matching wing. Inside, the theme continued with a carbon fiber steering column, a lightweight transmission tunnel, and titanium pedals sourced largely from TMS. Every part was evaluated, rethought, and rebuilt with purpose. The redesign wasn't superficial. It reshaped the entire car from the ground up. Before long, other builders began copying the layout, once they realized how brutally effective Martin's secret Camaro was in testing. When the car was finished, it was everything Martin had asked for. And still, he wouldn't race it. He had made himself a promise. The new car wouldn't see daylight until he won another No Prep Kings title with the original Fireball Camaro. So throughout the 2021 season, this wildly advanced million-dollar machine sat untouched while Martin fought for a championship in equipment that was clearly outdated. He admitted he didn't really know what the new build was supposed to become. Should he bolt on street tires and try to turn it into a cruise night monster? Sell it and walk away before it drains even more money? Or just let it sit, an expensive, silent reminder of a goal he wasn't sure he'd ever be able to fulfill? That uncertainty followed him all season. Every race in 2021 carried twice the weight it normally would. Win, and he'd inch closer to finally justifying the incredible machine sitting untouched in his shop. Lose, and that same car became a mirror reflecting everything still unfinished, everything still out of reach. By the time the season reached its final race, the pressure had stretched thin enough to snap. When Martin crossed the finish line and clinched the championship, it was liberating. That long-delayed, untouched Camaro was no longer a burden or a reminder. It was finally his to unleash. So how did Martin end up with this relentless, win-at-all-costs mindset? The same one that made him stash his best car out of sight, when winning made him the enemy. Ryan Martin finally climbed to the top of Oklahoma City's famous 405 list, only to have the #1 spot ripped away less than an hour later. The 405 list is the ultimate ranking system in street racing, a ladder where only the fastest and boldest survive. When the show removed pro mods and brought back true street cars to recapture the original spirit, Martin seized the moment. His twin-turbo Fireball Camaro blasted through the competition, landing him in the #3 position almost instantly. But not everyone welcomed Martin's arrival at the top. Monza, comfortably holding the #2 spot and long considered untouchable in the local hierarchy, didn't see Martin as a legitimate competitor. For Monza and many of the veterans, racing was as much about history and loyalty as it was about speed. Martin wasn't part of the original 405 crew. He didn't have years of late-night street battles, a reputation forged in the backroads of Oklahoma, or the network of allies and rivals that defined the old guard. To them, Martin was an outsider, someone who had skipped the unwritten initiation rites that separated the veterans from the pretenders. In Monza's eyes, giving Martin a shot at the top spot wasn't an opportunity for fair competition. It was a gamble. It was a chance to remind everyone where experience mattered, to reinforce the established pecking order, and perhaps, if he played his cards right, humiliate the newcomer in front of the same crowd that had cheered his own rise. The tension between the two racers was symbolic. A victory for Martin would challenge the unspoken rules of the scene, while a loss would cement Monza's dominance and the notion that outsiders didn't belong. The stage was set for a confrontation that carried more weight than a simple win or loss. The track, the cars, and the mechanics were all secondary to the psychological battle unfolding. Martin's preparation, focus, and understanding of the Camaro's capabilities were about to be tested against Monza's experience, reputation, and sheer instinct honed over years of racing in the shadows of Oklahoma's streets. When the lights went green, Martin executed flawlessly. Every launch was calculated, every shift precise, every decision made in the heat of the moment without hesitation. Monza, expecting to capitalize on his history and experience, found himself outpaced and outmaneuvered. Martin beat Monza cleanly, leaving no doubt about his talent. The victory didn't bring respect, it brought hostility. Many longtime 405 members openly rejected the idea of a non-OG racer holding the crown. To them, Martin hadn't spent years building credibility on those streets and didn't deserve the top ranking, no matter how fast his car was. Politics took over. The group pressured Monza to step aside so Chuck, one of the most respected original members, could challenge Martin and fix the list. Chuck delivered decisively. In their first real showdown of the season, he put Martin on the trailer and took back the #1 spot as if restoring the natural order of things. For the veterans who'd ruled no prep long before Martin arrived, it felt like a victory for the old guard. And for Martin, the fall from the top wasn't gradual or symbolic. It happened in real time. His reign lasted about 60 minutes, a single hour where he went from the man everyone was chasing to the man suddenly trying to figure out what just went wrong. For the first time, every competitor was specifically targeting him, not just trying to win. This moment influenced every decision Martin later made in No Prep Kings. He's won the opening race of all 4 seasons he's entered, which means he spent nearly his entire NPK career out front, with the entire field aiming at him. That short reign at #1 taught him that paranoia in racing isn't weakness, it's realism. Leading meant everyone studied his setup, analyzed his runs, and prepared their car not just to be fast, but to be faster than his. He was no longer battling individual opponents. He was battling the collective ambition of everyone who wants the spot he is holding. That mindset would become essential when Martin confronted the biggest test of his career. And when the stakes rose far beyond personal pride, the real question became, could he withstand the pressure? Saving Street Outlaws' reputation. Wild Horse Pass. Motorsports Park in Chandler, Arizona, became the stage for a showdown far bigger than a typical drag race. Richard Rawlings of Fast and Loud's Gas Monkey Garage demanded a rematch after Big Chief beat them in the first mega race, and the story surrounding this second meeting put the entire Street Outlaws brand on trial. Rawlings believed their car had been faster the first time, and that NHRA Pro Stock driver Alex Laughlin, who stepped in after Aaron Kaufman left, simply hesitated at the starting line. To Gas Monkey fans, the street racers hadn't truly won. They just lucked out. This rematch, in their eyes, would expose that luck once and for all. The stakes couldn't have been higher. If Gas Monkey won, every critic who insisted Street Outlaws was staged, soft, or inferior to real professional racing would feel vindicated. Online forums would erupt with claims that the TV racers were only heroes in their own small pond. Meanwhile, Gas Monkey had their own credibility at risk. They were desperate to prove they could build more than flashy show cars, that their machines could run with serious competition. NASCAR champion Kyle Busch was brought in as race master to keep the peace, set rules, and prevent the growing tension between Big Chief and Rawlings from tearing the event apart. Arguments broke out over track prep, race format, and what counted as fair conditions. At one point, the entire event was close to collapsing. That's when Ryan Martin stepped in, volunteering to represent Street Outlaws and agreeing to conditions that gave Laughlin the advantage. Anything to keep the race alive and protect the crew's reputation. But the odds weren't in Martin's favor. Laughlin had spent his entire career racing on perfectly prepared tracks as an NHRA Pro Stock driver. A prepped surface like Wild Horse Pass was his natural habitat. Martin, on the other hand, came from the no-prep and street world, where the track is unpredictable, and success depends on reading the surface, not relying on it. Competing on a prepped track meant Martin had to spend hours testing, tuning, and relearning how his car behaved under conditions his team rarely used. The showdown was set as a best-of-3, a format that left zero room for error. From the moment the lights dropped, every reaction, every split-second decision mattered. The first pass would set the tone for the night, and neither driver could afford a misstep. Martin slammed the throttle, the Fireball Camaro launching with a planted ruthless precision. The car stayed glued to the track, every ounce of power feeding straight into forward motion. Behind him, Laughlin fought desperately for traction, the tires hopping and chirping as the Camaro surged ahead. Every foot of the lane tested control, balance, and instinct. By the finish line, the outcome was undeniable. Martin took race 1, gaining both momentum and a psychological edge. Race 2 was the decider. If Laughlin could steal it, everything would hinge on a single make-or-break pass. The tension was tangible, the hum of engines and the smell of burnt rubber amplifying every second. Martin didn't flinch. He repeated the perfect launch, the Camaro surging forward like it knew exactly what to do. Laughlin battled for every scrap of grip, but the advantage Martin had built was untouchable. The car pulled away cleanly, ending the night 2-0. He walked away with $75,000, but the real victory was proving Street Outlaws racers could hang with NHRA talent. Martin immediately used the money to hire Billy Gilsbach to build the now famous ZL1, a reinvestment into the future rather than a celebration. Rawlings had shown up for revenge and left with a lesson, and Martin's reputation only grew stronger afterward. But a single high-profile showdown is one thing. An entire championship season is something else entirely. Could he sustain that level of performance when the pressure didn't come in one burst, but followed him from race to race, week after week? Racing with your family. As crew, the final stretch of Ryan Martin's 2021 No Prep Kings title defense felt less like a racing season and more like a survival course. The schedule closed with 6 events in 6 consecutive weekends, each one in a different corner of the country. Tucson in Arizona, Bandimere in Colorado, Tulsa in Oklahoma, Texas Motorplex, No Problem Raceway in Louisiana, and finally, Bradenton in Florida. Most racing series build in downtime so teams can recover, rebuild, and travel. NPK did the opposite, turning the end of the season into a gauntlet where one mechanical issue or one exhausted decision could end a championship run instantly. Martin's team looked nothing like the fully staffed operations around him. He had 4 people. His crew chief, Javier Canales, handled tuning and setup. His best friend, Michael Bean, flew in for races when he could. His wife, Cherish, managed logistics while caring for their young son. And then there was 4-year-old Dax, who ended up living the same marathon travel schedule because there was simply no time or place to leave him at home. What other teams spread across a dozen specialists, this small group carried on their backs. Martin drove the hauler himself between events, hauling the Fireball Camaro and every tool, part, and spare they might need. Javi followed in the truck, pulling the merchandise trailer, which doubled as a rolling storefront, helping fund the season. Michael would fly in just before a race and fly out immediately after. The long drives between tracks were their closest thing to rest. Gas station food, fitful sleep in the truck, and miles of highway with no real downtime. The mental strain was just as heavy as the physical grind. Even after a good weekend, Martin couldn't relax on the drive out. He'd replay the runs in his mind, compare times, and worry about anyone who was inching closer to his pace. If another racer suddenly picked up speed, he'd start calculating what changes he needed to find a couple more numbers. Extra performance squeezed out of tune-ups, boost adjustments, weight distribution tweaks, or aerodynamic improvements. Whenever they could, they stopped at tracks for quick test passes. Sometimes the testing paid off, giving them a small but crucial edge. Other times, they burned precious hours trying different combinations and found no improvement at all. Worst-case scenario, the car slowed down, leaving them scrambling to diagnose a setback with no time before qualifying at the next stop. Cherish captured parts of this whirlwind on Instagram, smiling photos, posts about their 6th anniversary, and snapshots of family moments on the road. But behind the cheerful images was a simple truth. They were pushing themselves to the edge, living out of trucks and trailers while chasing a championship that demanded everything from them. The season came down to the final race in Bradenton. Martin carried the weight of 6 relentless weekends, the strain on his family, and the knowledge that a loss would make the entire grind feel pointless. When he secured the championship, it was proof that a tiny, overworked team could beat fully staffed, well-funded operations through sheer grit, focus, and refusal to break. Even after winning 2 championships in a row, Martin recognized a problem he couldn't ignore, one that money, grit, or experience couldn't fix. What do you do when the car that made you a champion is also the thing keeping you from going any further? One car can't serve 2 masters. Martin's Fireball Camaro had a problem he could no longer ignore. It simply wasn't built for the kind of racing he was asking it to do. From the start, he understood the car's original design worked against him. Before he ever owned it, the Fireball had been built by Joe Copson for drag radial and Outlaw 10.5 racing, formats where the winning strategy at the time was pushing the engine far forward in the chassis. That forward weight layout helped control wheel stands and worked well on heavily prepped tracks. But no prep racing is the opposite. To hook on an unprepared surface, the weight has to shift toward the back of the car. The Fireball's engine sat a massive 92 inches ahead of the rear axle, nearly 8 feet, exactly the opposite of what no-prep physics demand. As Martin put it, the car shouldn't work well. Yet through relentless testing and learning how to drive around its flaws, he forced it to run at the highest level anyway. The issue wasn't that the Fireball was slow, it was that it couldn't be 2 cars at once. Martin was committed to both the 405's street racing world and the No Prep Kings series. Each required different setups, different behaviors, and different compromises. Real streets are unpredictable, with dust, pebbles, changing temperatures, and no traction compound. No Prep Kings tracks, while far from perfect, still offer more grip and consistency. Every time Martin switched formats, his team had to reconfigure the car. Suspension, boost curve, tires, gearing, and countless smaller adjustments. The constant back and forth was wearing down the car and draining the crew. It became clear that the only real solution was also the most expensive. He needed 2 separate cars. The Fireball would stay dedicated to street racing, preserving its legacy and keeping Martin aligned with the 405. And he would commission a brand new purpose-built No Prep Kings car with 0 compromises. It meant doubling his workload, doubling his expenses, and accepting the reality that even champions can't make one machine perfect for every environment. Martin turned to Billy Gilsbach to create the new weapon, a ZL1 Camaro designed specifically for no-prep dominance. The wheelbase was set at 111 inches, 2 inches shorter than the Fireball. The engine was moved roughly 8 inches rearward, dramatically improving weight transfer. The double frame rail was positioned higher and wider than standard builds to increase stability at extreme speeds. Gilsbach shaved weight everywhere possible, substituting carbon fiber or titanium whenever strength allowed. Gilsbach applied the same weight reduction philosophy throughout, substituting carbon fiber or titanium wherever strength requirements allowed. The result was significantly lighter than the Fireball, yet stronger and more balanced. Martin kept the same powertrain, a Proline 4 81X with twin 98mm precision turbos, an M&M Turbo 400, and a Fuel-Tech FT 600. Familiarity meant fewer variables and shared spare parts between both cars. 3 weeks before its scheduled debut at the PRI show, the car was finally picked up. Martin's crew, along with Homier Fabrications and RK Racecraft, thrashed day and night to finish wiring and plumbing. The engine roared to life for the first time at midnight, and by the next afternoon, the ZL1 was sitting in the Precision Turbo booth in Indianapolis, an entirely new chapter in Martin's racing career. The project cost over $1 million and doubled his responsibilities, but it solved the core issue. One car can't do everything. Racing at this level demands specialization, and trying to force one machine into every role will break both the car and the people behind it. But dividing his program into two separate cars created a new challenge of its own. How do you bankroll two full racing operations when keeping just one alive is already financially punishing? The $40,000 trap. On paper, no Prep Kings appears to offer the dream of professional drag racing. $40,000 per event and championship bonuses that, when stacked across a season, can push a driver into six-figure territory. In 2021, Martin's resume looked exceptional. 6 invitational victories, 2 Team Attack wins, and an Outlaw Big Tire triumph across 15 events. Yet even with this success, the numbers conceal the relentless costs and risks that make the prize more survival than windfall. The series spans 15 races over 9 months, dispersed across the country. Travel alone is punishing. Each haul from Arizona to Florida or Colorado to Texas adds hundreds or thousands of miles to a truck and trailer, each mile compounding wear and the potential for catastrophic mechanical failure. An engine failure, for example, can derail an entire season. A competitive engine for Martin's level costs $60,000 to $80,000 to rebuild, and even a rapid turnaround takes 2 to 3 weeks. Without a ready spare, missing a single race can mean forfeiting both points and a $40,000 payout, turning promising numbers into a financial nightmare. Transmissions offer no reprieve. Martin's M&M Turbo 400 with a lockup converter withstands enormous power but degrades with each run. A rebuild can cost $5,000 to $8,000, and converter replacement adds another $3,000 to $5,000. Turbos fail under similar pressure, with precision 98mm units priced $6,000 to $8,000 each. Replace both, and it is already over $12,000 before labor. This is only part of the picture. Drive shafts, rear-end components, fuel system elements, electronics, suspension, wheels, and sets of slicks add tens of thousands more in recurring expenses. Martin notes that survival requires 2 of everything, a luxury many teams cannot afford. Even luck cannot eliminate financial strain. Martin's 2021 season was remarkable for running the same engine all year, a rarity in a sport where major part failures are expected. Travel costs intensify the burden. His hauler averages 6 to 8 miles per gallon, meaning a 1,000-mile trip consumes $500 to $800 in diesel one-way, excluding hotels, meals, and entry fees. For racers without frequent wins, a handful of missed payouts can bury a team under $20,000 to $40,000 in expenses. The advertised $40,000 prize is rarely profitable. It is survival money, enough to keep a well-prepared team afloat, but insufficient to build wealth. Even more taxing is the intangible cost that haunts Martin year-round: the relentless uncertainty of competition. While other drivers recover in the off-season, Martin dismantles and rebuilds his program to gain an edge. He sold the engines that secured his recent championships and commissioned 2 new Pro-Line Hemi engines, promising a 100 to 150 horsepower boost, a transformative gain in a sport where 20 horsepower is noteworthy. His goal is measurable speed, shaving tenths of a second that can be the difference between dominance and failure. The off-season is dominated by testing and experimentation. Martin evaluates shock valving, spring rates, boost curves, ignition timing, pro-charger setups, and multiple camshaft options. Each session costs $1,000 to $2,000, and a full winter program can expend $10,000 to $15,000 before any parts even fail. Track time consumes tires, fuel, and equipment, and breakthroughs are never guaranteed. Testing can improve performance, yield no gains, or even slow the car, forcing him to undo changes and start anew. Meanwhile, rivals are pursuing similar advantages in secret, leaving Martin to wonder how much they have advanced until the season opener. The psychological toll is as heavy as the financial one. Every late night in the shop, every dollar spent, and every test session exists to maintain supremacy. Martin faces the pressure of knowing that competitors are improving, targeting him specifically, and that a minor gain discovered elsewhere could shift the competitive landscape overnight. Success depends not only on mechanical mastery, but also on vigilance, timing, and resilience under continuous uncertainty. Ultimately, the No Prep King circuit is less a path to riches than an unforgiving endurance test, demanding preparation, investment, and mental fortitude. The sport's high rewards are paired with high stakes. Mechanical failures, travel costs, and relentless competition transform each $40,000 prize from a windfall into a necessity to stay in the game. Martin's experience illustrates that triumph in this arena is as much about surviving the grind as it is about winning on race day. A good look at what Martin brings with him to every single race, his approach, his paranoia, the constant preparation. It all makes sense. So the real question becomes, what did they uncover in there? 4 people. Beating teams with one secret. What they found inside Ryan Martin's trailer finally explains how he manages to stay ahead of the field, and why the discovery is downright intimidating. His setup isn't just a stash of spare parts, it's an entire insurance policy against failure. Built piece by piece with the understanding that anything can break at any time. Inside the trailer sit 2 complete Pro-Line Racing 481X Hemi engines. Beside them are backup transmissions with multiple converter options suited for different track conditions. There are backup turbo assemblies, spare drive shafts, rear-end components, fuel system hardware, wiring, electronics, and enough suspension parts to rebuild the entire car from the ground up. If something catastrophic happens between rounds, Martin's team has the parts on hand to rebuild nearly every inch of the car without calling anyone or waiting for a shipment. The natural question becomes, why carry a rolling warehouse that costs as much as a house? The answer lands as one better understands the size of his team. Just 4 people handling what other top teams assign to 10 or 12 specialists. Since Martin doesn't have bodies to throw at problems, he solves the manpower gap with preparation. Other teams rely on having people to fix things on the fly. Martin relies on having the replacement parts already in the trailer. If a transmission dies, he doesn't scramble to source one. He bolts in a spare. If a turbo gives up, he grabs another from the shelf. Where other teams stall out hunting for components, his small crew keeps moving. The strategy works in real time. Martin regularly gets calls from competitors during events, trying to buy parts from him because they're one failure away from going home. They started the season with one of everything and hoped for the best. Martin didn't rely on hope. He built redundancy into every corner of his program. What his trailer really shows is the philosophy behind his championships. A small team can't compete with larger operations simply through extra effort. But meticulous preparation can prevent the kinds of setbacks that typically derail a season. His inventory isn't overkill. It's what survival looks like in a 15-race season scattered across the country. And the unsettling truth is simple. Most racers can't afford to prepare at this level. That means they're effectively out before the first round of racing even begins. If Ryan Martin's 4-person crew can beat fully staffed teams with preparation alone, why doesn't anyone else do it? Will he push his mind even further? Or has he learned the toughest opponent is the prison he built inside his own head. Share your thoughts with us in the comment section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.